Good morning, y'all. It's Kentucky Renaissance Man. I'm doing a review on this 620b case skid steer this morning. We've had this thing just a hair over 3 months, and I wanted to share with you a few of my thoughts about the whole machine this morning. Anyway, jumping right into it. So one of the first things when you get in the machine, and it is about 30 degrees outside this morning, just a little light frost. Every day, doesn't matter if it's 60 degrees outside, 70 outside. We've had even a couple of mornings it was in the 75 range, even in the winter time, or if it's 20 outside. This machine takes a solid 15 minutes to warm up before it wants to go anywhere. It has all this automatic throttle control stuff on here. You can run the thing all the way to full engine speed, and it does exactly the speed it wants to do until it's ready. So if you are having an emergency and want to get in this machine and go to do something real quick, if it has not been run in the last 8 or 10 hours, you're going to be sitting here a while waiting for it to warm up. It won't do anything. It won't move. It doesn't have any power, nothing until it warms up. So hopefully your barn is not on fire and you need to move the machine real quick. Anyway, that's my first big complaint about the machine. You know, I can get in my Kubota or my John Deere, and even if they're really cold, you can get them to creep out of the barn. You can get them to do something, but you know, we all know it's better to let stuff warm up for sure. But if you need to get something going quick or whatever, you can't do that with a case. And I'm not sure if it's that way with every other machine, but at least John Deere and Kubotas that I have, I can jump in them and go, and they may creep and crawl, but they'll go. Anyway, so that's one thought. The other thing about the overall just getting in the morning is the hydraulics are sluggish. That is an understatement. In fact, it will have so little power it feels like it's locked up. And I'm not talking about frozen tracks. I'm talking about completely clean, dry tracks. It will take a solid 30 minutes before you get enough temperature in the hydraulic system to where it really feels like it's got the power it should have and that it's reacting the way it needs to. All right, let me go through a few other things here. All right, so one of the things that it took me a little while to learn, and I'm sorry about this light right here, that's the reverse camera. But anyway, so the machine's sitting here idling at 1150 RPMs. You could take this throttle, and now that it's warmed up, you can crank that thing up, and you see it dial it up and down. But anyway, so these triangular indicators right here, I've got it on this low slow setting, and then you've got a medium setting that you can go to right now. I have the brake on so I can maneuver between it, and then you can go to this one, or you can go to this custom one, which is like a setting, personal settings. So I have gone into the screen and set up in the computer and set up my personal settings for just general operation. It took me the first month of playing with this machine to figure out what my personal settings were and preferences. However, I figured out that my personal settings don't always work for what we're doing, because this machine does not, it's not nimble like most machines. So if you go back down here to the slow setting, the machine basically creeps along. All the hydraulic functions are slow. The driving function seems to be slow. Everything is. The medium, you get enough power out of it to turn and to twist around, but then the hydraulics speed up quite a bit, and so then you get a little bit more responsiveness. If you go to this full setting right there that I just highlighted, it gives you the most responsive and then also the most power to your tracks, so that when you're spinning around and loading trucks or pushing dirt, whatever, you go in reverse and forward as fast as you can. The problem with this one is that it makes the hydraulics almost uncontrollable. They don't, between the medium and the high is a big jump, and this one right here, the machine is not a nimble machine. It weighs a lot, and so because it's electric over hydraulic through this computer, everything is reactionary. You'll tell it to go left, it doesn't go left, and then all of a sudden it goes left 3 feet. So I really don't like the high speed on this thing. That's not your rabbit or your turtle, that's just the hydraulic pressure settings and stuff. So I've been running it on the medium or on my personal settings. The personal settings is kind of, you can adjust everything to fit how what kind of job you're doing. I've actually played with the personal settings several times and keep adjusting it, and I've figured out that, depending on whether I'm doing bush hogging or dirt work, or if I'm loading trucks, or if I go and do mulching, I need personal settings on 4 different things. And I guess it's just because you just don't have the control. Like my Kubota doesn't have any of this stuff, and it works perfectly in every situation, because it just depends on how much you push your sticks forward, how responsive it is, and how much you adjust your throttle. With this thing, you adjust the throttle, and then all this hydraulic stuff is just forced through it. I have no idea what the technical side of any of that is. I just know that it has been a really big learning curve to get to that point with the understanding these controls. Learning curve. If you have never run a case with all this new electronic stuff, you're in for a surprise. But that's I think it could be a good thing over time. The downside is that when you throw any new operator into it, they want to screw around with the personal settings, and they want to mess with all of these deals, or they don't know anything about any of it, so it's just in whatever you left it on. And so I've got 2 or 3 young guys that work for me that have gotten in here, and it'll be on this wide open speed or something, and they can't control the machine at all, and it's dangerous. So then I'll reach in and push it down to this low one, and then they can't get anything done. So there are some upsides and downsides. This machine is really strong and really big and heavy, and it can do a lot, but it is not a intuitive, easy to run, simple machine that anybody can jump in and out of. I've got the forks raised up as high off the ground as they go. Most of you guys that are used to swinging doors are probably used to this mess, but I like the Kubota overhead, which y'all know. Overhead door, because you can get in and out of it, or Takeuchi doors. But this thing is about 12-13 inches off the ground right now. It's hard to judge the max height without doing it 2 or 3 times, but I'm like 2 or 3 inches below the door, so that forks could probably come up 15 inches. But being a carpenter and bringing piles of wood and using the horses like sawhorses, that's kind of aggravating. You can't open the door. The door does come off really easily, so if you're doing a bunch of work around the sawmill or moving piles of wood, or need to get in and out of it with the boom halfway up, you can take the door off and use it like that, or be able to communicate to people outside. And but if the door's on and it's cold or it's hot and you want the air on, your forks are limited. Here on the side of the machine, I absolutely love the tracks. I like the height of them. I like the length of the tracks. It bridges really well. It doesn't have a free-floating suspension like some of the skid steer companies. This one's built very much like my Kubota in the way that it works. However, it does have these double rollers front and back, which I think are long-term going to be really great. But overall, the tracks really do a good job of floating over stuff, and it has an insane amount of torque that comes out of the tracks, and so I can't say anything bad about that. As far as checking fluids and everything, I did a review. If y'all look at my video earlier, when I first got the machine, I went over all that stuff. I still like every feature about the back. I have had several hydraulic leaks, small ones. A couple of them have been internal fluid coming out of the bottom. I took it up to case, and under warranty they took care of all those and sealed them up, but I had oil running out everywhere one morning. We came in the shop and there was 5 gallons of oil on the ground. And then I've had several leaks like this one. I'll zoom in here. Just little aggravating nuisance ones. It's all O-ring related stuff. I've tried to tighten them up, but we've got 50 hours on this machine, and I've probably had 30 leaks. So I don't know if my machine was built on a Friday or they just don't torque all their joints down, but most of them it's been either a folded O-ring or the joint was just loose and we've had to tighten them up. But I think I've got most of the leaks stopped now, hopefully, and from that we're doing pretty good. My front connections on my high flow, the face coupler on it leaks a little bit, and it's I've not connected it to anything, a used attachment, only new ones, so it's kind of surprising that the face coupler does, but I don't think that's necessarily a case problem. It just happens to be maybe a little bit of messed up piece on that face coupler. If you're buying this machine for a company where you're going to have several different operators running the same machine, I would say it's probably not the machine for you, because it does take there's a learning curve with so many different features on here. It's not that intuitive. I think that that it's a great personalized machine, so that if I ran this thing 10 hours a day, all day, every day, doing the same jobs, I would get really used to a lot of the stuff in it. But where I've got several different people that are jumping in and out of several different machines that I own, this is by far the most difficult one for people to get in and figure out on their own. And if I'm not there to show them and walk them through a bunch of steps and things I've learned about it, then they just kind of creep around, or they got it throttled too high, or they don't know how to disengage the hydraulics for a bucket attachment. And it's something that's really difficult over the phone to explain, because there's so many different features and functions and buttons. So simpler would definitely be better if you got several different people trying to operate, or you have a lot of inexperienced operators. This would not be my first choice for a machine for my first machine. I would think that either a Kubota, a John Deere, a Gale, I hate to say that, but a Gale, something like that, would probably be a better machine for a first machine, and then step up to this, or a Cat, or maybe a Bobcat. But personally, I don't like Bobcats. I hate to tell you all that, but I don't like Bobcat stuff. But as far as the intuitiveness of the system, this one's pretty difficult. So all right, on the sunny side of this review, the air conditioner, the heater, the radio, all the features of that stuff, the Bluetooth part of it, the speakers as far as hearing the radio, work phenomenally well. I've not experienced a radio in a skid steer other than a John Deere, a Kubota, and a Bobcat, and all three of those I've had terrible experiences without being able to hear anything. I usually end up with earbuds or earphones on or something if I want to hear the radio or talk on the phone. This machine, you can throttle down, stop, and you can hear your phone really well. You can get your Bluetooth hooked up on here, and your phone will just pair with it automatically when you jump in the machine. And so you go from the truck, it paired up with it, to jump in the machine, it pairs up with it. When the phone rings, it interrupts it, and I really like all those features. And so as far as just hours on hours spending time in the machine and doing stuff, that's a great deal. They've got that figured out really well. The surround sound speaker system in here is up over your head, so you can actually hear it. It's not like on my Kubota, it's down on the floor, and it doesn't work very well. So you have to have you don't have to have the volume screaming to it makes your ears hurt to be able to hear it. All right, visibility is a main concern to me on a skid steer, any skid steer. So you see, let me hold this phone level. I'm holding it as level as I can, and if you look right over my shoulder, you can see that grain bin. That's the top of a grain bin back there, but the back windshield, you can just turn and look over the top of the side, and you can see behind the machine, probably 30 feet behind it. You can't see immediately behind like any other one, but it's not as high as it looks from the side externally. You do have this whole column of the boom going over your top. But what is neat about this machine is I have the boom, well, the bucket's touching, the forks are touching the ground right now. And I don't know if you guys can see this right here, but I can see the whole top of my track, and actually behind the track, maybe 12 inches behind the track. So you can ride right up against something and back right up to a post or a wall or something and be able to gauge it. I could actually see my back fender weight, side weight right there. You can see about 30% of the side weight. So as far as perimeter visibility, this machine is way better than some that I've been in. The Kubota, I can't see right through there, but the boom is lower. My John Deere is an older John Deere, and it has a really flat top boom on it, and so you can see visibility is really well over the top, but it's not down low. So it's give or take. This one, the boom is at eye level right here behind you, but you can see under it and you can see over it, and then the behind you is actually really good visibility there. As far as sitting comfortably in the seat, sitting comfortably here and then viewing the tips of my bucket or the forks, this has great visibility. With these swing out doors, if you're used to an overhead door like I am with the Kubota, all of this handle and hinges and mechanisms is kind of in the way. I've gotten used to looking through it and around it, and I don't notice it as much as I did, but it definitely does create some obstructions. But as far as being able to see the tips of the bucket or the forks, it's got good view. All right, well, that's the quick review of the Case tv620b after 3 months and about 50 something hours on it. I would give it a 6 out of 10, I think, overall as a machine. From all the ones I've run, I've probably run 20 different machines. I've owned 5, and this one is probably a 6 out of 10. I think that weight capacity, as far as it picking up stuff, it is on the market, other than its sister New Holland machine, it's the largest lifting capacity bar none. And as far as engine power, I think there's only maybe one. The RSV has got a little bit, or ASV's got a little bit more horsepower. I don't know that it had, well, I know it doesn't have as much torque, but it does have a little more horsepower. As far as hydraulic pressure and hydraulic flow, there's only one other machine on the market that has just slightly higher hydraulic pressure and flow, but it has less horsepower. So this machine's extremely capable. One of the downsides that everybody needs to realize about the 620 or the 550 Monitor is when you get to that size machine, you're not going to load it on a skid steer trailer. Even a 14,000 pound skid steer trailer tow behind is not going to haul this machine. That weighs over 16,000 pounds without attachments. So you fill it up with fuel and load it on your trailer, plus your trailer, you're going to have a 20,000 pound trailer just to haul this machine safely. So I would say that if you don't have but a 3/4 ton truck and a 20-foot Bobcat trailer or a 16-foot Bobcat trailer, that before you go spend $130,000 on a machine, you need to also figure out your truck situation. If you're doing little custom jobs and stuff and want to move around a lot, I suppose you could pay a custom hauler, but that would get expensive quick. So we actually have a couple of different dually trucks. I've got an International CV 515, and I've got an F450, and a couple of 20 and 30,000 pound goosenecks. So for us, it's not a problem moving it, but I can imagine a lot of the smaller guys that want a bigger machine and want to compete with a small dozer or something might try to jump into it, but this machine would push you up and down the road all day long. You guys have a great day. Hope this helps. If you're looking at the new Case or any other skid steer, give you something to compare to, and this is my opinion about a few things, but y'all have a good one. Thanks.